meet the face of and the future of tabletop sports gaming, Russell R. Wren, one of the latest retirees to emerge on the Facebook APBA groups. He's a football man, he is a baseball man, and he retired from his athletic director job just before the pandemic. He's also a friend of newly minted Hall of Famer Ted Knorr as
Yes,
well. Cool. Thank you so
yes.
much for joining us.
Yeah, and also I have to mention our good friend Skeet Carr
Yes.
from the game company. Skeet and I go way back.
Really? Wow. This is awesome. Awesome.
Yep.
So, well, now with that said, I mean, you noted that you started playing around age 10, and it really Apple really kicked off your career as a coach and an athletic director.
Really did. And I have to take note of your background. I kind of like that, and I kind of see you did your homework there, my friend. Um, but yeah, my life's kind of been sprinkled with APBA through the whole, through my whole 61 years, obviously. I was looking back a little bit, and I started playing, I guess, when I was about maybe 10, 11, 12. Like I'm thinking 74 was my first recollection of a baseball card set, and then football in 75. And that's kind of what got me started. I just found a love and a passion for managing baseball and football teams, and it was just kind of one of those weird things that was my passion, and I kind of like knew it at a very early age. But life takes you in different directions, and you go different directions. I played all through high school and went to college, played a little bit in college, but then things kind of started changing a little bit. um Actually went to college at Millersville. Started my college career at Millersville, right there by the game company. I grew up in Oley, which wasn't far from that, Berks County, Pennsylvania, and went to college there. And that's when kind of interest starts to kind of go a little bit. But I still kind of held on with Ted and with Skeet. We had a pretty good football league in the Lancaster area, so that kind of kept things going for a while. But then, like I say, life changes. You get married, you have kids, things kind of fall by the wayside, and then you
For sure.
retire, and here you are.
Do you have much of a collection left, or did you have to start buying? I think you bought the new football cards.
I did. I had a few sets left. I was always a fan of 71, 72, that era. So I had some baseball and some football sets from the early 70s, just a few. Got some new sets, and I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I'm going to start dabbling into it a little bit. So I kind of got it going. I have two sons, 30 and 24. The oldest one really never got into it. The youngest one kind of got into it not too long ago, like during the pandemic. He came up to me, he says, "Hey, Dad, let's play a baseball game with your game." My game, because his game's the one on the TV. And he says, "Yeah, the one with the dice." I said, "All right, let's go."
Nice.
So it was pretty cool. It was a cool moment. We got out the baseball game. I know this is football related, but we did get out the baseball game.
Sure.
He's a Yankees fan. I'm a Giants fan. So we said, all right, what if they both would have gotten to the World Series last year? So we played it, and it was, oh my God, it went to the seventh game. Glossman had a perfect game through eight.
Whoa.
Gave up a hit. I pulled him in the ninth. Giants win 2-1. Seventh game of the World Series. So it was a great moment. Me and my son playing APBA. It was really cool. I was just kind of hoping he wasn't going to say to me, "All right, Dad, now play this game on the computer with me," because I wouldn't have fared real well there.
Well, I'm glad you bring that point up because playing on computer, I mean, it's a whole different skill set. I mean, it's down to how fast your thumbs work. I mean,
You
it's
got it.
crazy. It's like,
You got it. And that's why that's the big difference. Like for us, it was more about the managing and the lineups and when to call a hit and run. Football, when to use your screen pass, when to blitz, when not. There, it's more thumbs. It was a little bit different for us.
so tell me about the health of the league that you were in. That's I mean, a lot of us started solitaire, but it's great that you had some folks, obviously right by the company,
Right.
heaven.
Right. I think we lasted about 3 years. It was a draft league, if I recall. Unfortunately, I remember that year. I forget what year it was, but all I remember is I was the one that drafted towards the bottom of the snake. and all the good quarterbacks had been taken. And
Mm.
I got stuck with, I think, Steve Bartkowski from Atlanta. And meanwhile, the guy in our league got, for the first pick, got Joe Montana, and he won the league, of course. And, that's kind of the way it went. But it was all about playing. We had a couple other guys. We had a fella named Eric Horn. I remember Eric Horn lived over on Plum Street in Lancaster. And we had a fella named Rick Rotundo, who was a prison guard who played with us. We had a good bunch of guys. We used to play with Teddy Knorr down at the bar there, down, I think, on Prince Street.
Nice.
So it was a pretty cool league. It was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, like I said before, lives go in different directions, and so did ours.
Now that you're back into it, have you already started rolling some games? You're getting back into the new rules. You were asked about kind of how the game has evolved, and it certainly always does.
Yeah, I what I've done is I purchased a new football card set. And I have to, put this out there. Full disclosure, I am a Dallas Cowboy fan living in the Philadelphia area. So, Eagles fans, I'm not going to say anything. But, I always like doing Dallas Cowboy replays, replay the seasons. It's not too many games. It doesn't, take that much time. So that's kind of where I'm thinking. I'm thinking we're going to do the Cowboys from last year is going to be my first replay back. So I got the cards and I'm kind of going through and I'm seeing some things that are a little unfamiliar to me, guys with 2 cards, the K's in the first column. I'm like scratching my head a little bit, which is kind of how I ran into you guys. Awesome job. Awesome site, by the way. I mean, it's just good stuff. Try to figure out what some of these new things are. So I'm just kind of going through the teams, just kind of putting them together, just kind of experiencing that magic. I think we all experienced when we were kids, when we first took that team out for the first time and looked at them. There was something cool happening there. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. I don't want to rush into it, if you know what I'm saying.
Thank you for saying that. That is exactly it. It's not a rush. It's a savoring kind of a thing.
That's right. That's right. It's just like the game itself.
So when you picked up your set, so you're looking first at the Cowboys regardless, or do you look at the Super Bowl winners first? What's
Cowboys. Here's the cool part. After my son and I finished the Giants-Yankees World Series, I said to him, buddy, I said, as much as I loved APBA baseball, I said, I got to tell you, I like football a little bit more. And his face kind of lit up, and I said, just wait. I said, just wait. I said, and he, when I said that, he's like, Dad, you ready to play the APBA football game? Nope, we're not going to play it until the fall rolls around. Not until we're done with baseball. So I'm really making him wait. But I told him, I said, this is going to be fun.
Nice.
So that's kind of my plan down the road,
So is he what's his team?
He's a Cowboys fan too.
All right.
What
Okay.
we're gonna do about that? Yeah, I brainwashed both my sons. We're a Cowboys family.
It's funny, as our former governor was a Dallas Cowboys fan here in Jersey. So
right. Right.
Hey,
the big man, I remember.
That's right. Hey, it's great.
Jerry's box.
and there's another gentleman I was going to say is also replaying the Cowboys. So that Cowboy magic, you think it's starting to come back?
I don't know. Going back as far as I do, obviously I'm a Tom Landry guy, and I'm not a huge Jerry fan. I mean, I do kind of respect Jerry in a weird way, kind of like I respect the George Steinbrenners. Those guys want to win, but whether or not it's going to happen with him there, I don't know. And Stephen Jones is kind of going down the same road, but I'm always optimistic.
It's interesting.
Trying to be optimistic.
For sure. It's interesting because you have that inside knowledge of, as an athletic director, kind of what it takes, in terms of chemistry. There's so much beyond pure athleticism to winning in sports.
True.
True.
You're so right. And that was one of the things that I think APBA led me down the path. And then it was the part of the people that kind of really got me intrigued even further into going down that path. It's funny. My coaching path it went from APBA, okay, to when I was in college. My buddies needed somebody to kind of play softball and run their softball. Let's go. I can run a softball team. I can fill out a lineup card with the best of them. So then it turned into softball. So then I was asked to coach a junior high baseball team. No problem. I can do that. They're junior high kids. Yeah, I can fill out a lineup card. And then that's when I started really learning about all the other nuances of the game that the cards didn't provide. And also the people portion that you had just mentioned. So then it was like, okay, then we got the junior high team, and then I guess I was doing a pretty good job. The high school coach comes up and says, "Hey, come on up to the JV. No problem, I can do that." Well, before long, I was the head high school coach there and the assistant football coach at Downingtown High School,
Wow.
which is one of the bigger programs in the state of Pennsylvania. So that's where the whole people aspect kind of got into my soul too, as far as, yeah, I like the APBA piece, the strategy, but like you just said, the people part is almost equal to the other part, if not more so than the other part. You got to be able to manage people, and you got to know your game.
We talk about the evolution of the NFL, the clear distinctions. How have had any of that translated into your world in terms of looking at, I mean, obviously it's, a world apart, professional formations, things like that. But did you kind of have to how do you shape these athletes and kind of get them ready if they are pursuing that kind of a career, an athletic career? Do you kind of shape their minds to anticipate, how to tackle, how to, work the physics of the field, et cetera?
Right. That's a great question. That's a great question. And my first answer kind of takes me towards the end of my career. The end of my career, I spent my last 15 years as the athletic director at Great Valley High School, like you said. And we had a young man there, and some of you football guys might recognize the name. His name's Nasir Adderley. Right now, he's a starting strong safety and free safety for the Los Angeles Chargers, still the San Diego Chargers to me. But Nasir Adderley was from Great Valley High School. And I met Nasir when he was a freshman. And when he was a freshman, he may have been one of the worst kids I've ever had to deal with, be around. He was disrespectful. He just didn't have it going on. Sophomore year, we bring in a new head football coach who really had the best interest of the kids at heart, and he had a long heart to heart with Nasir, and as did I. And Nasir said, the only thing I want to do is I want to play football one day on Sundays. We said, okay, let's go. So we got him straightened out with the grades. We got him straightened out with the behavior. By the time he was a senior, he was a model citizen. He was an honor roll student. He's what I call the athletic success story. Because of athletics and football, that kid completely turned his life around. And now look at him. Just a tremendous, tremendous kid. And he used to come into my office every day at lunchtime, every day, and talk about playing in the NFL. And during his senior year and the end of his junior year, there were some schools recruiting him. He wound up going to the University of Delaware. And he used to come in, he used to say, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know where I want to go, because some bigger schools came in late to try to get him. And he's like, man, Wake Forest flew him down, wined him and dined him. And he come back in my office and he's like, Mr. Wren, I just don't know what to do. And I said, Nas, follow your heart. And he says, my heart says Delaware. He says, they were the ones that loved me first. I said, do it. Well, if you go on YouTube or have ever seen any of his highlights from the University of Delaware, just a tremendous, tremendous athlete. Wound up getting drafted by the Chargers, and now he's just a success story. But it was all about football and all about athletics and all about molding and shaping that kid in the right direction. And now look at him.
That's tremendous. That's
Yeah.
tremendous. What is it about the power of sports that captivates the mind?
Well, it when I was a school teacher and coach, I always used to say to folks, you always got to remember, parents and people are very, very passionate about two things. One is their kids, two is sports. Well, as an athletic director and a coach, you kind of get them both at the same time. So right there, you kind of figure out that, hey, you know what? People are just flat out passionate about sports. They love it. It's the competition. It's the stage that it's set on. And people, again, people are just so passionate about it. When you're dealing with people and the kids in sports, that's why you see crazy parents out there sometimes today, because they just let their passion get the best of them. And God love them, they're out there for their kids, but they're just a little misguided sometimes. And that's today's world. I'm kind of glad I retired when I did, Jeff. My wife always said, it's a good thing, because the parents were getting crazier and your patience was getting thinner. So it's a wise wife I have.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, it's funny. I see a little baseball field around here, and they have a sign about kind of telling everyone to keep cool. It's just, it's like, wow. But
yeah, the
yeah.
sign where it says there's going to be no scholarships given out here today. Relax.
There you go. There you go. So your Cowboys are back on your APBA gridiron. Have you tried rolling a few plays? Are you still working on the rule book? What's your take on the game then versus the game now so far?
Okay. Um, when we played back in the league, we played the master game. I mean, we pretty much played it as we played it as hard as we could. Now, as I'm going through the cards. I haven't rolled any football dice yet. In fact, I found something new. Just last night I was going through the 49ers and I saw Deebo Samuel has two cards.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
I'm kind of like matching up, like just for example, I forget what it was, but maybe the OCK is on, use the K column on that particular card,
Right.
but he's got two different run columns.
Right.
I'm like, what are these? When would I use this one? When would I use the other one? It's just kind of, I'm
There's
still not all the way up to speed yet.
Sure, sure. Yeah, the two card thing happened, I think, in the aughts where you've got your special teams, and obviously they're wisely making more use of the RPK. So the
Right.
one where obviously he ran so many times this year,
Yeah.
last season rather, excuse me, that the one without any other allocation to that R would be the one you'd use in the game more often or
When
most
would you
often.
use the other one?
The other would be for that special teams or the different. I don't have the card right here, but
Okay.
yeah, it is a killer card for sure. He can.
Yeah, and I'm still learning. I mean, I'm still kind of getting back into it and learning the nuances and so on and so forth. Um, so even with the baseball, learning some of the nuances of the master game, the pitching stuff. We never really did that when we were a kid, but then we started to a little bit later on. Um, so yeah, I'm not haven't rolled any dice yet,
Yeah.
but anxiously awaiting to do that soon. Once I kind of go through all the teams, and then I'm kind of ready to. Once the air starts getting a little chillier, then it's time to start rolling some dice.
Do you have any other season sets that you'd like to? They've since 2014 when app owner John Herson declared that to be the year of football. He's been on a tear, re-releasing, recalculating a lot of season sets.
Right.
Any particular ones that you would target? I mean, you mentioned you're an early 70s guy, mid 70s.
Yeah, I have. I'm actually, before I kind of put it down, I think I was 3 games into a 71 Cowboys replay, using again all the old basic stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, I may just even get into that and finish that one up before I kind of get into the new one, and then kind of gets me rolling again, so to speak. I do have the 71 stuff that's kind of, it takes you back to your childhood a little bit. Then I have the new stuff here too. So I'm thinking about maybe even possibly grabbing one of the Cowboys Super Bowl years, with Troy and Emmett and Michael Irvin, and maybe letting my son try one of those. My youngest son, my oldest son lived through that, so he's got a couple of Cowboys Super Bowls under his childhood, so to speak. My
Mm.
youngest son hasn't seen one yet, and we're hoping for him. So maybe we'll get him the card set with the triplets for something to do if he turns out and he likes it. And here you go, Merry Christmas, buddy.
Nice, interesting. Actually,
Yeah.
speaking of the triplets era, I think it was the '92 season set where they added the K to the runners column. So instead of
Mhm.
getting that one or two at 66, and even sometimes at 11, if you hit that K, you re-roll and go back to the K column. So it makes the breakaway runs a little more granular, I think, to kind of
Right.
help avoid. So in '71, the Cowboys. Oh, and check out our interview with Pat Toomey because we talked to
Oh
him
yeah.
about the '76 Buccaneers, and he just talked about everything from Landry to Madden. But how do you deal with the quarterback carousel? Do you indeed do Morton and then Staubach on every other offensive play for the '71 year?
Well, it's funny. If I remember correctly, I think I had an injury early in my replay. So that's something that has come into play. I don't know how I'm going to do it moving forward. I'll be honest. I was always a Craig Morton fan before Staubach came along. Um, I remember my first Cowboy recollection was, I guess I was 9 or 10, crying when Jim O'Brien kicked a field goal, crying in my dad's living room. But yeah, I don't know how I'm going to handle that the quarterback carousel.
Interesting. Well, how about Super Bowl 12? Who'd you root for then?
Well, I just have some funny stories going back there. I was mentioning to you sitting there crying in my dad's living room when the Cowboys lost that Super Bowl. Um, Here's a good Cowboys story for you. I'm coaching high school baseball at the time. In the summertime, I'm coaching American Legion, having tryouts. And I get this kid, and I get his tryout form, and I'm looking at it, and I'm looking at the name, and I'm thinking, man, I know this name. It's a weird name, but it couldn't be. Here I am in Pennsylvania. So I call the kid over. I said, Drew, I said, I'm looking here at your last name, Babinez. I said, I used to root for a guy named John Babinez who was a linebacker for the Cowboys in '72. The kid's face lights up. He goes, that's my dad.
Oh my God.
I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
Get out of here.
So, yeah. So I actually got to coach John Babinez's son. Babinez was, I believe 72. They drafted him. I think he finished up his career with the Bears and the Oilers. But yeah, so that was pretty cool. And in fact, John Babinez, while he was playing for the Cowboys, was getting his medical degree. I believe, I forget what hospital down there in Texas, but he got his medical degree, and he is now Dr. John Babinez, retired Dr. John Babinez,
Wow.
and was the pediatrician for both my sons.
Wow.
So is that a cool
Awesome.
story? It's a cool Cowboys story. My youngest son, he's 24, when I just played the Giants Yankees with. He's a pretty good golfer. Played golf for the University of Delaware. Was a team captain down there.
Wow.
Was playing in a college tournament, and he comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, Dad, this guy I'm playing against over here from, I think we went to Wofford." He says, "This guy I'm playing over here," he said his grandfather played for the Cowboys. He says, "But I never heard of him." He said, "You ever hear of a guy named Chuck Howley?" Yeah, I heard of Chuck Howley. So sure enough, my son's playing against Chuck Howley's grandson. And I get to chatting with I guess it was his daughter-in-law who was walking along following, their son. And they said he's not doing well. I guess some of the concussion stuff, but that was kind of a cool small world kind of moment, getting to watch Chuck Howley's grandson play. And yeah, neat stuff.
Do the parents, I mean, obviously, when you've got that kind of pedigree, the pedigree of the kids who come to you, the folks who are, if their parents were athletes, particularly former Cowboys, do the parents or relatives tend to get a little more involved, or were they laissez-faire about, letting their offspring play the game?
I've actually had a few. In fact, you know what? While I had Drew Babinez, at Westchester East High School, that's where I was the Legion coach at the time. I also had Matt Schaub, who went on, played for a number of years, obviously. And I think he might even still be holding a clipboard, if I'm not mistaken, maybe for the Falcons. But yeah, he actually played baseball for me.
Wow.
Yeah, he pitched for me, played a little third, played a little short. But we always knew football was always his first love. If he had a football camp or something, guess what? I was missing a shortstop that day. But yeah, that's another one, and actually Schaub and Babinez were on the same team for 2 years, same high school team. And played high school football together for 2 years.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That brings up another point. Now you're way deep inside the game of football. APBA Football came out in 1958 with the 57 season, just that time when the greatest game ever played. And it is a very stripped down version. Some people love the mechanics still. Some say it's been vastly improved upon. But from your perspective, I mean, the game has that kind of parlor aspect. I always like to say it that way, that it's you grab a couple teams just like you do with your son and go, and it kind of strips, it's an inside run or an outside run, short, medium, long pass. You're not like Madden talking about hook routes and
Right.
Skinny post and
Right.
whatever gap you're hitting. How would you say the game of APBA football and even the game of baseball, how they kind of replicate, satisfactorily what you're seeing on the field and what's actually happening on the field? Do you think it needs more detail, or you think there is some lack, where the detail's been kind of rounded, the corner's been rounded down, that works just as well?
Personal opinion, for the games aspect, it's got enough detail for me. For me, it's perfect. The way it plays is perfect. The way it plays solitaire is perfect. The way it plays, face to face is so much fun. For me, it's perfect. Now, the way it compares to real life football is, I got a rude awakening. My football coaching career kind of was strange. I really didn't play. I tried to walk on when I was at Millersville, had a pretty bad eye injury that kind of ended that. So I mean, I did get to put the pads and helmet on a little bit and experience it, which was kind of cool. But So without playing, what happened was I was at Westchester University going through getting my undergraduate's degree. And at the time, I happened to know some guys that were taking some classes over there that were on the football staff, and I kind of got to know them and like them. And they said, "Hey, you know what? You're a phys ed teacher. You're a little bit older. The kids are going to respect you. Well, we have an assistant's job over here. Come on." So they kind of talked me into coming out and coaching football. I said, "All right." Boy, was I in. Here's this playbook. Learn it. Holy, excuse my French. Anytime anybody says football players are stupid, I tell you what, here you go. You learn this. You learn this playbook. See how you do. Guess what? APBA was great, but I'm telling you what, when you get down to the X's and O's, yeah, it's a whole new ball game. It's a whole new ball game.
For sure, for sure.
But APBA did get me to the road, and APBA did give me a good guide. So there's always been a little bit of APBA going on in my world too.
Did you ever have occasion to talk about the game of APBA even a little bit? It's like, oh, an APBA that would have, you just rolled a 66, kid.
Now that I think back, when I got one of my very first coaching jobs at a junior high, Downingtown Junior High, I guess I was coaching 7th and 8th graders. We did start a little mini APBA league. But unfortunately, that was right around the time that the video game stuff was happening. And I think I kind of, fell a little short on that one. So yeah, I mean, we did give it a try there.
Tough era.
Yeah. And it's hard to compete. Then when I would have kids in my office, I would counsel them when I was the athletic director on, high school kids on career paths and things like that. And I would always say to them, I'd always ask, what's your passion? What are you really passionate about? If you're passionate about something, find a career in, and I would always use the example of video games. And I would say to the kids, if you're passionate about video games, find a niche somewhere in the video game world where you might be able to make a living and be happy. And then I would tell them, I said, when I was a kid, I didn't have video games. I had these cards and these dice, and that was kind of what I liked doing and what I was passionate about. And before you knew it, here I am. I'm coaching baseball. I'm coaching college football, and passion. That's what it's all about, and that's what I was trying to let the kids know. Follow your passion.
All right. And play inside, kids. Don't go outside. Play inside first.
Yeah, exactly. A lot safer too.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Do you see, speaking of that, do you see the same level of interest among youth today, given all the revelations about injuries in the game of football?
Seems to be growing. I mean, from my experiences, last few high school programs, I was affiliated with, the youth programs were up and coming and growing. I know where I live now. I live in the Morgantown, Pennsylvania area. Our local programs are growing. It doesn't seem like concussions are scaring anybody away.
Did you dabble in, and certainly knowing Skeet, did he ever kind of say, hey, by the way, we got this new golf game, the saddle, the bowling. Did you ever get into anything else, or strictly the big two?
Tried basketball and fell asleep. Did try golf. Played a little bit of golf when I was a kid. Just never really clicked for me for whatever reason, football and baseball were it for me, just loved them. Just loved those two games. Still do. Love APBA, that's why I'm here with you. It's like, it's such a big part of my life. It's like, what, this is the time for me to say thanks, APBA, for all, Dick Seitz and Skeet and Vera Lincoln and those people affiliated. Without those guys, man, I would be where I am today. It sounds corny and cliche, but it's honest to God's truth. Without those guys and without Dick Seitz's game, I wouldn't be talking to you today.
That's right. That's right. I mean, it's got such an amazing hold on us. I mean, look at our ages. I mean, that's just, once it gets you, and it's, it drives you. It really is a companion for life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Back a little bit to the X's and O's, again, going back to the 70s, talking about the evolution of football and how that evolution is reflected in APBA, where when the master game comes out, you're seeing the nickels and dimes, you're seeing 3 wide and 2 tight. I mean, 3 wide and 2 tight was very sparsely used in the 70s. The 3-4, occasionally Dolphins, Chiefs, and then the old AFL. I mean, how do you rate, as a football mind, the eras, the use of, say, the 3-4 versus the 4-3? Did it, it was kind of talent driven, the 4-3 of the 70s to the 3-4, I mean, LT, et cetera, and then copycat league, everyone wants to do it. Were there appreciable differences how the game evolved and with the nickels and the dimes? I mean, talk to me, I guess, a little bit about your perspective on the evolution of the game, and could some of the older players, Unitas, Butkus, Charlie Trippy, play today?
Yeah, you know what, Jeff? I think you answered your own question. You nailed it. I mean, it's you said it. I think you used the phrase talent driven. I mean, it really is. You have to play the hand you dealt.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Well, for the most part, at the high school level, obviously college and pros are different. But even still at that level, you've got certain roster restrictions you got to work within, and you've got to be able to use the talent you have to work for the game, evolve the game. Every once in a while you'll get an innovator, a Landry with the, with the hitch, the shotgun coming to the line and putting the, Roger back there. But again, I mean, even that was a talent driven move to take advantage, give Roger a little bit more time, see a little bit more about what's going on. You nailed it. It's talent driven. It really is. When I used to interview high school football coaches, I was used to ask them, what do you do? Do you fit your talent to your system, or do you fit your system to your talent? I would always look for the guys that always wanted to fit their talent, it fit their system to the talent, because what that would show me is they would be able to do multiple things. They wouldn't just try to do one thing. Now, guess what? Worked for a lot of coaches. Do one thing really well. Go ahead and stop me. But getting back to your question, as far as the talent in the league and the evolution, that's the way the athletes are getting better. They're getting better. They're getting bigger. They're getting faster. They're getting stronger. I believe that the athletes of yesteryear can't compare, because they don't have the advantages that the athletes now have. They know what to eat. They know how to eat. They know how to sleep. They know how to train. They have equipment to train. Even more, they have equipment to recover. Back in the day, you broke your arm. Guess what? You rubbed some dirt on it. You dealt with it. It's the way it was. So, like I said, I think you answered your own question. The evolution of the league is based on the talent.
Landry, and Pat Toomey talks about this. Landry, a real system guy, and when he got the three former Packers, including Herb Adderley. I mean, he was really kind of on Adderley to play in the system. Adderley maybe freelanced a bit, play the way he did with Lombardi. I mean, what's
Right.
your take on the Landry method?
Well, funny story that you bring that up, because I don't know if you know the connection with Nasir Adderley and Herb Adderley.
Mm.
And that was one of the things when Nasir Adderley was a freshman that I kind of got to him right away. When I heard the name Adderley, I said, any relation to Herb? Like thinking, oh, like no way, right? He's like, oh yeah, that's my grandfather. And I was like, yeah, played with the Packers and the Cowboys, and this kid's eyes like, holy shoot, Mr. Wren, you know about who my grandfather is, and that was like an aha moment for the kid. But that's kind of the Herb Adderley thing. So now back to your question, you got me sidetracked.
As a coach, how do you, again, you talk about a system guy versus a talent, so how does that, can a coach change his stripes as well? I mean, is it, or is it incumbent upon him to not do that and just kind of stick with the system?
Well, a good system is going to allow you to bring in other different parts and aspects.
Mm.
I'm going to go back to the Adderley kid again. When I brought in the coach his sophomore year, who was a really good coach, he took that kid, he lined him up in the slot, he lined him up wide, he had this kid doing everything, and opponents didn't know what the heck to do with him, didn't know how to guard him, didn't know where he was coming from. And again, that was a coach who kind of tailored his system a little bit to fit this kid, so this kid could be successful. Yet it was the same system. He ran a pro style offense, and he just would be able to have some different nuances that if you got a certain kid, you can build him into your system. 2 years later, he had a big fullback kind of kid, and everybody thought, okay, this kid's gonna just play full. No, he had him lining up at tight end, kind of doing H-back stuff with him. And it's the thing. It's just, if you have a good system, you can definitely work with different parts. Hey, like I say, this is my thank you to APBA, to Skeet, Verrill, Dick Seitz, those guys, just for putting such a cool thing out there when we were kids. because it was the real deal back then. And those trips to the game company are things you never forget. So
For
I'd,
sure.
I'd be happy to shoot you anytime down the road and shoot you some updates on my replays once I get them started.
I can't wait to hear it, Russell. Thank you so much for your time. Great chat, and enjoy the game.
Good stuff, my friend. Keep rolling.
Yes, sir.